phrase always seek change all the time. It is a common piece of advice, yet it's hard to follow. Very hard. But there is something even harder. Shift your perspective. Now, how do we do that? People always say that shifting your perspective can change the world. And I think it's true that, in many cases at least, a simple change in perspective turns the world upside down. Was Uber really a groundbreaking innovation? Was a smartphone truly a revolutionary invention? No. Their genius wasn't in creating new concepts, but in seeing differently and recombining existing ideas. A simple approach transformed these visionaries into billion-dollar unicorns and reshaped history. Very often, we see examples of people taking the same resources, but producing completely different results. And when we hear about such cases, many of us cannot help but think to ourselves, why am I not able to do that? It can be discouraging. How can we break out of familiar patterns and look at things from a fresh perspective? The truth is, telling yourself that you need to see things differently isn't enough. In fact, sometimes the harder you try, the more stuck you actually feel. Oftentimes. But there is a powerful approach that offers a solution to this problem. Many cognitive psychologists, myself included, consider this discovery to be one of the most defining moments in the field. It turns out that people who are exceptionally creative and capable of reshaping the world with their unique perspectives are not necessarily born different. Instead, it all comes down to whether or not they take advantage of a very simple principle. Okay, let me get to the point. What kind of small change can help us take what already exists and turn it into something that looks completely new? Whether it is in Korea or abroad, various global companies come to me with a request. They ask me to help their top talent become more creative and develop a more innovative way of thinking. And when I do, I bring one single slide, the one you see here. It's the same exact one. Why? Because I want to make it clear that there is nothing else more important than what's on this slide. And also, I bring the objects that go along with it. What you see here are just a few examples, but in reality, I bring hundreds of these objects. Hundreds of objects, all for a single slide. Adults are actually more influenced by this, but for the sake of clarity, let me explain using children as an example. I take this slide and these objects and visit elementary schools. I go into a third grade classroom. Actually, I go to 3 different third grade classes. The difference between classes is small, so I treat them as similar groups. I give each class the exact same objects, the exact same amount of time, and the exact same task to do. The only thing I change is the timing and phrasing of my instructions just slightly. But despite such a small adjustment, the results are dramatically different from one another. In class 1, I can turn the students into perfectly ordinary kids. In class 2, I can make them seem quite smart and creative. And in class 3, I can shape them into the kind of innovative thinkers who could one day represent the country. You might be thinking, well, that's ridiculous, but this is a truly powerful paradigm that cannot fail and has never failed. Let's take a closer look. I start with class 1. I scatter the objects in front of the kids and say, everyone, pick 5 objects you like and create something new and interesting. The kids look around, but they never pick the bent, twisted, or unusual objects at the bottom. Why? They think they'd be too difficult to work with. Instead, they all choose the plain, predictable ones like the rectangular blocks and the cylinders. About 70% of the boys make cars or trains. around 80% of the girls build houses. They all end up creating the exact same things. There's no individuality, creativity, originality, or innovation. It's a painful sight, but I leave class 1 behind and move on to class 2. So what do I do differently here? I change the timing of my words. I start the same way, by scattering the objects in front of them, but this time I only say, "Everyone, pick 5 objects that you like." And then I stop talking. Well, at this point, some kids look suspicious, because they know I've spent quite some time in class 1. A few of the more curious ones even ask, "Is that it? That's all?" And here's where I act a little. I say, "No, I just figured you were all getting bored waiting for me. Just pick whatever you want. I'm starving, so I'm heading home now. Bye. See you later." Then I walk right out of the classroom, disappearing completely from view. So how do the kids choose now? Their personal preferences start to emerge. They no longer just pick the safe, predictable objects. And what does it mean when personal taste emerges? More and more of them start selecting the unique and unusual ones. They feel a sense of satisfaction in having something different from their classmates. Meanwhile, I watch quietly from behind the door. Once they have all made their choices, I suddenly burst back into the room and say, "Now take your 5 objects and create something new and interesting." Their expressions immediately go cold. Almost all of them complain, "You should have told us that before you left." If I'd known, I wouldn't have picked these. Ugh, what's wrong with that man? He's giving major ick. But here is the thing. Something is already changed. Now they can't all create the same thing, because they all pick different objects. And since some chose unusual ones, the number of unique and creative ideas increases dramatically. Compared to class 1, the difference is striking. But I don't stop there, I move on to class 3. What do I do in class 3? This time, I change the order entirely. So, I do not show them the objects right away. I hide them behind a curtain. I start by asking a question. If you could create something new and amazing, what would you make? Since they have no idea what's coming next, their answers are big, bold, and ambitious. Someone always mentions a robot that will preserve world peace. Lots of things that will reunite North and South Korea. Some kids say that they want to invent a smartphone that never needs charging, or a car that runs without fuel. And then others will poke them and say, "Come on, think bigger." I listen to all their ideas carefully, and then you can probably guess what I do next. I pull back the curtain, but not all at once. I lift it just a little at first, slow enough for the kids to start realizing what's about to happen. By the time I reveal them all, they know what's coming. And then I say, "Pick 5 and make what you just described." The reactions vary. Some kids' eyes well up with tears. Others drop their heads in defeat. But then, something incredible happens. Their eyes sharpen. They sharpen a lot. Why? Because now they have to protect the world, unify a country, and create groundbreaking innovations with these objects. And for the first time, they do something that did not ever happen in class 1 or class 2. There's real creativity. They start turning the objects around. Listen to the sounds they make when they collide. They roll them on the table. Some kids smell them. A few even lick them. I've made it very clear. Why is it so difficult? To change our perspective, because we never go through this kind of process. Experts who specialize in evaluating creativity or assessing the ability to generate ideas have reviewed the results of the students in class 3. They analyzed how well their creative and innovative thinking has developed. The truly astonishing thing, their scores were nearly on par with, or in some cases even higher than, those of the students who had won gold medals at the World Student Creativity Olympiad. So are we still stuck in class 1? Or are we not even at class 2 yet? Why did we not make it to class 3? Why did the students in class 1 end up so ordinary? Because they looked at the tools, then thought about how to use them, and only after that decided on a goal. Humans struggle. to imagine big results when they start by looking at small tools. We often assume that to achieve something great, we need big tools or major methods to help us do it. That's why when we begin with small tools, we tend to dream small or set modest goals for ourselves. Conversely, by changing the order, by prioritizing our true aspirations, the tools we have will show opportunities others may not see. And here's the important part. The final goals that the students in Class 3 came up with were so big that they were almost impossible to achieve. What do we, psychologists, or rather, what do people in general call something like that? We call it a dream. In psychology, dreams and goals serve completely different functions. Dreams shouldn't be so big that they seem impossible to achieve. Goals, on the other hand, have a clear destination that can be seen and measured. Once a goal is set, there needs to be a plan to reach it. The reality is that most people only have one or two of these three things. Some people have dreams so big they seem unattainable. Some have clear goals that define where they need to go. Others have a detailed plan to achieve their goals. It's those with all three of them who really accomplish incredible things. Goals without dreams leave you stranded. People who think solely in terms of goals like I will become this or I will earn this much may be able to plan. But once they attain their goal, without a guiding dream, they lack a direction. This subsequent void, coupled with the potential loss of creativity, fuels a negative spiral that they fall into. You need to have a dream. Even if the whole world thinks you are crazy, it doesn't matter. In every language, when people talk about grand aspirations or a vision for the future, they call it a dream. But in those same languages, the word dream also refers to the strange, unrealistic things we imagine while we sleep. Why do all languages use the same word for both? It's because a vision or aspiration should be as big and outrageous as the dreams we have while sleeping. But if all you have is a dream, you'll end up like Don Quixote, chasing illusions. The truth is, most of what people have are just goals, not dreams. A real dream needs to be much bigger. And what's one of the key functions of dreams? A dream is not just something you aim to achieve. It's there to change how you see the small tools you have. Do you have a dream, a goal, and a plan? Or are you someone who only has a dream without any clear, concrete goals? Many people fall into the second category. There's also many with only goals, working hard every day but feeling stuck and exhausted because they cannot see beyond them. Only having a grand dream paired with a tangible goal fuels lasting drive. You may have heard of the 10,000-hour rule. The idea is that if you dedicate enough time and effort to something, you can develop exceptional skills in it. But why is it only a small number of people actually do this? As cognitive psychologists, we believe that lacking either a dream or a goal significantly diminishes your chances of truly ever succeeding.